Ilia, Khabib recently said that he wanted you to face Charles before fighting Islam. He believes you beat Charles. What did you make of Khabib's comments, and why do you think he wanted you to fight Charles before fighting Islam?
Honestly, I don't care what he wants.
Question for Ilia Topuria. The former UFC lightweight champion Islam Makhachev was critical of you this week. He went on an interview and he
We
said,
don't give a fuck about him, so save that question.
Even in Dagestan, when he's fighting, the people goes to sleep and they watch his fight in the morning.
Is there any headway on Islam Makhachev and Jack Della Maddalena if that title fight's going to get booked soon?
I'll let you know when we get it done.
More interesting topic than all that, before we get into the next one, is the Islam fight. You know, Dana said recently, if Islam beats you ADM, you have that super fight. Is that at welterweight or is that at lightweight? Because I think if it's at lightweight, you're going to run into the same Max Ilia problem where Islam's going to regret going up to 170, then coming back down to 155. Now that Ilia's got his footing, Ilia's only going to get better at 155. You want to be one of the first guys to fight him. You don't want to be the fourth, fifth guy where he's really, you know, Dustin, Charles, all these guys said they didn't feel like.
They went live for only a few minutes, and that was enough to tilt the whole week. Ilia Topuria on one side of the split screen, Islam Makhachev on the other. No crew, no cue cards, just two elite fighters speaking like the room was already a cage. The tone said more than the words. Short lines, clipped pauses, each sentence thrown like a jab to measure distance. Nobody tried to be clever, nobody stalled. It felt raw and unscripted, and that's exactly why the chat erupted as if a date had been set on the spot. For months, the talk around Islam has carried a different weight. People inside the game keep saying he's eyeing welterweight with serious intent. Whispers point to New York in late fall, the kind of stage that turns wins into history. The name everyone keeps repeating is Jack Della Maddalena, a sharp puncher at 170 who rarely takes a backward step. Reports claim a voice from Islam's circle hinted the venue, the month, and the matchup, while the other side answered with a simple message: come get it. Nothing is official, but the pieces fit too neatly to ignore, and that is why every little comment feels like a teaser trailer. On the live stream, Islam didn't sell belts, he sold status. Pound for pound is his hill, and he argues like a man who believes the case is already closed. He kept it simple. Number one isn't a belt size, it's the name that echoes longest after the lights go out. He's willing to hunt across divisions to make that argument undeniable. Ilia's reply was cooler. He didn't bark, he described speed, timing, clean entries, and the kind of accuracy that makes pressure hesitate. If they ever share a night, he believes he makes Islam look a half step behind, and he said it without a raised voice or a wasted word. That confidence sits on top of real momentum. Ilia climbed, won big, and never lost the room. He reads the moment well. He knows when to smile, when to shrug, when to let silence do the talking. That's why Islam calls him a showman. Ilia calls it presence. The truth lives somewhere between those words, which is why fans argue about it all day. You can respect the skill and still wonder how much the spotlight helps. You can admire the aura and still insist the resume and rough nights matter more than highlights. Either way, the attention follows him, and attention changes matchmaking faster than any press release. The timing lit the fuse again because it landed during rumor season. Some say a legendary teammate from Dagestan let the plan slip during a friendly Q&A, hinting that Islam's next stop is Madison Square Garden. Others point to a timeline that lines up perfectly with the open slot in November. Meanwhile, the welterweight side keeps sending confident signals, the kind that sound like a champion ready to defend rather than stall. Put it together and the road suddenly looks paved. If that's the path, Ilia isn't in that cage right away, but he still sits in every conversation because the chase for number one doesn't respect weight classes. There's a twist and it lives a division lower. Max Holloway, the people's engine, is nursing an issue that might keep him out longer than anyone hoped. He hasn't made a dramatic announcement, yet the whispers around matchmaking are careful. That matters because if Max can't go soon, Ilia's defense at featherweight gets complicated. Names like Movsar Evloev, Brian Ortega, and even the old King Alexander Volkan.
Tough as nails. He lived up to his nickname, the Diamond, and talking about him being strong like a diamond, I mean, my right hand still hurts. Big ass head, you know what I mean? As I told him after the fight, you know, but I see a lot of people talking about who's next, who's this. There's a lot of fun fights, like I said, for me at 55. Like I said, there's Oliveira. I mean, if Justin gets the next title shot, that would be cool. If I get the next title shot, I'd be sick. But if you have hopes of me fighting before the end of the year, I'd be sick. But if you have hopes of me fighting before the end of the year, probably not gonna happen. I see a specialist sometime this week, and I already met with my doctor. Now I gotta go meet the specialist, but things are not looking too up of me fighting one more time this year. So all that fight talk, I guess, is on stilts. So we just get to see how the 55 is gonna plan out. I get to enjoy, be a fan a little bit.
Poirier's shotgun. He does a really good job of killing people with this thing, okay? And then a lot of the time he'll go hook after, and that sucks, okay? Max did a really awesome job of any time Poirier would throw this, Max would throw this type of kick, but it would almost be back, like he was like, almost like switching back, but he would rocket this kick and come back to his stance. A lot of what we can do in martial arts, especially when we have kicks involved, is not only can I make it.
Sorry, Max, just one more.
Yeah,
I know you had good praise for Ilia there. Dana was in here. He said you are still the BMF champion, but Ilia's strutting around backstage with the UFC belt on one shoulder and his BMF one on the other. Just your thought on that.
I mean, it is what it is. It is. It wasn't, could you imagine Islam walking around with 2 belts after knocking out Volk? Let that sink in, you know? The belt was in a different weight class.
Ilia the only fighter to beat Islam. I don't see Islam losing again. I think if it's not Ilia, it's nobody. Yeah, Ilia can beat Makhachev, and I think JDM also beats him though. That's my take. I think JDM also whoops Makhachev like a bitch.
Volkanovski jump into the discussion, but none bring the public electricity that a Holloway title fight would create. A delayed max means backup plans, new brackets, and a champion who has to decide between patience and momentum. As if that board wasn't busy enough, another headline slid in sideways. Conor McGregor finally put a sample into the testing pool again. On its own, that's a formality, but it turns talk into paperwork, and paperwork moves the industry. It doesn't guarantee a month or an opponent. It only guarantees that timelines suddenly become math problems. If you run the numbers, the earliest window looks like the next calendar year unless an exemption appears. Big returns bend schedules, and every division watches for the ripple. It won't decide Islam versus Ilia tomorrow, but it crowds the stage where every headliner wants space. All of this fuels the same argument about Ilia's immediate future at lightweight. Do you face the rightful number 1 because merit says so, or do you chase the match that sends a spike through the chart? Daniel Cormier has no problem reminding people that business has always shared the driver's seat with sport. He points to champions who chose legacy, history, or pay over the stiffest ranking. Michael Bisping, never quiet, pushes back that champions earn their names by taking the toughest available test. Both ideas live in the sport, and Ilia hears all of it. You could see that tension in the live, even when neither man said the other's name directly. Back to the live, because the details matter. The best moments weren't the spicy lines, they were the quiet ones. A small grin when the other tried to throw shade. A breath before answering, like each man counted to 2 to avoid saying too much. Islam kept circling one idea: beat the best anywhere, any weight, and the list will fix itself. Ilia parried with rhythm, make him miss, touch him clean, make him doubt, and watch the pressure unravel. No shouting, no cheap digs, just 2 very different visions of control colliding on a shaky phone connection that somehow felt more honest than a studio. Here's the unglamorous piece that decides everything: calendars. If Islam lands New York and wins at welterweight, his claim to the top pound-for-pound spot gets heavy. If Ilia keeps the year active with a defense and handles business, the chant for a super fight grows until nobody can ignore it. If either man trips, the story flips overnight. That's the sport. One jab opens a cut, one scramble changes an era, because both understand that they are careful about when and how they talk in public. A sentence on a live feed can move markets. A smirk can turn into a headline. Timing is everything now. The social side of this rivalry might be the sneakiest weapon. It isn't just pressers and posters anymore. It's owning tempo online, jumping on a live feed, and forcing the other person to answer without an editor. That spontaneity is risky. You can't call the network and ask for a do-over, but when you land it, it feels genuine in a way no studio can fake. The audience knows the difference. That's why those minutes carried more current than a polished interview. You could feel the stakes rise with every pause and every half smile that said, "I hear you and I'm not moving." Strip away the threads and you get 2 simple statements. Islam sees himself as the standard, the test that reveals who is real. Ilia sees himself as the storm that erases the test and writes a new rule book. Standards don't move. Storms don't wait. When they spoke on live, both men asked the same question without saying it outright. Do you truly want this? Or do you want the attention that comes with pretending you do? The silence after that question was loud enough to make the comments stall, because silence on live usually means someone is thinking about the truth. So what should fans actually expect as the year closes? Expect schedule chess. Expect rankings to be used more as microphones than traffic lights. Expect welterweight and lightweight to keep bleeding into each other as matchmakers try to serve both merit and spectacle. Expect the words #1 to be thrown around more than any belt name, because this debate is bigger than hardware now. Most of all, expect short, punchy moments like this live stream, because both men know how to bend attention without repeating themselves. A few lines today can set the table for months, and a single choice can change the menu for everyone else on the card. In the end, those minutes on the phone did the job better than any press tour. The chat flew, the audio clipped, 2 faces, 2 paths, 1 crown they both want titled the same way. They didn't shake hands, they didn't choose a date, they set a tone. From here, every move either man makes will be read as a message to the other. Pick a venue, that's a message. Pick an opponent, that's a message. Pick silence, that's a message too. That's how gravity works when you stand near the top and refuse to look down. There's also the money fight thread nobody can ignore. After Ilia's breakthrough title win, he stared down Paddy Pimblett inside the cage, and the internet did the rest. It was a reminder that star power writes its own schedule. Islam has criticized the pound-for-pound conversation lately, saying it can feel like marketing instead of merit, and he labels Ilia a showman. Ilia answers that he is the face of the moment, that people want to see him, and that demand proves the point. Both claims can be true. One side says accomplishments should control the megaphone. The other side says attention decides who matters right now. Between those truths sits the showdown everyone keeps asking for. Fans will argue until it happens.